were times where if I was working on the layout of a particular combat and I said, look, I need this tree to be one square over because otherwise it's going to throw off the whole combat. Like we couldn't just like mark where the obscure terrain was without matching the art. The rule was always like you have to actually match the art. And there were times where we're like, well, is that tree exactly in the right spot or not? It's like Cody went in and like adjusted. We had art from the maps done. And then at the last minute, Cody would have to like make shifts.
Hey folks, this episode is brought to you by Hero Time Manufacturing. That is Hero Time, the numeral 1.com. Hirsch Gleck has been a regular on our podcast. We highly recommend his services. He is a man of integrity. Hero Time, they can make anything. They've got competitive pricing and they even do game prototypes. So make sure to check out Hero Time, numeral 1.com. A link is in the show notes. And if you use the code crowdfundingnerds101, you can get a 3% discount on your production through them. Let's get back into the episode.
Hey everybody, and welcome to another awesome episode of Crowdfunding Nerds. I am your host, Andrew Lowen, and I am joined by a special guest this time. I am joined by Cody Miller and Ira Fay of Far Off Games. They have worked on a really ridiculously ambitious project called Arydia that's live on GameFound, and I backed this game in the first crowdfunding event on Kickstarter. I've been playing it up, and I'm like, the game is so ambitious and so large and kind of absurdly done over the top in every way, I feel like, in all the best of ways, that I just wanted to bring you guys on to ask you, like, what does it take to make a game of this magnitude with this level of excellence? And that's kind of where we begin. So
wow,
first of all, welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you so much for having us on, Andrew.
Yeah.
Happy to be here.
Yeah. And, maybe we could just start off with, what is Arydia? Who are you? How'd you guys connect? And why did you feel compelled to make it?
So my name's Cody Miller. I actually went to school to be a computer tech and then was designing a game on the side, and then Kickstarter happened and life happened, and so ended up designing games. Arydia specifically, for me, I started listening to a bunch of the like live play D&D podcasts sort of back in the early 2010s, and I thought, I'm going to run a D&D campaign. I'd never done this. D&D sounds fun. I'll do this for my friends. And I started working on a campaign. And I thought, I make games now. If I'm going to make a campaign, what if I made a campaign that like I could share with everybody? I'm going to do like all this work anyways. I might as well like see if I can put it in a box. So that was sort of the genesis of the idea of like, how can I take a entire D&D campaign and like put it into a product you can just buy and play, and you don't have to do any of the work. Like we'll do all the work for you. And so that was sort of like the idea behind Arydia to start with.
And when did you have that idea?
That was, oh man. So our first game, Zaya, had just come out. So this was like 2014. We'd finished funding, and I'm like, okay, I talked to my wife and I was like, I'm not going to be a computer programmer. We're going to like do board games. She said, great. That'll work out great. And so this is what I started working on next. I was like, I'll just crank this out. Next year we'll do another. And that was, 2014. And the actual Kickstarter wasn't until 2021. Mm-hmm. So it was a long time to make. And during that time, we worked on, Ira and I started working together on expansion for the first game. I started working on an expansion and he hit me up and was like, hey, I want to do a solo version. And I was like, this is a bad idea. Like he lives on the other side of the country. And I forget, how did you ask for my number or something, Ira? And we ended up on the phone and just instantly clicked. Ira has become like one of my best friends since that time. But I just remember that first phone call. I was like, this is such a bad idea. Like, I don't want to design with somebody else. And by the end of that phone call, I was like, I cannot wait to work with this guy. He is so smart. And just like so awesome. Such good energy. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So sweet. Ira, you're a university professor. Am I crazy?
I spent quite some time as a professor, about a decade. Currently, I'm working at MIT, but as a educational game designer and as a project manager. But it's my great pleasure to get to work with Cody on board games as well, and I think that's one of the it's a perk of my day job that I have the opportunity to get to do board games at other times.
He does
That's
really
amazing.
cool stuff at MIT too. He's always telling me about his project, and they're just like very cool applications of like game design. I can't speak to them as well as he can, but it's really cool.
So when you reached out to Cody, so Xayah the Xayah Legends of Adrift is 3 to 5 players, right?
Yes.
But base, which is kind of a strange number. You know, I've marketed hundreds of Kickstarters at this point, Kickstarter Game Fund campaigns. I've raised crazy amounts of money for all sorts of different projects, and 3 to 5 players is weird. I'm like, why can't it be 2? Right? You got to have 2. You'll miss out on so many people. But Xayah did really, really well. Really well.
Yeah, it was kind of a weird. I probably would not have designed it the way that I did, but I just had a big friend group, and we never played anything at 2 players at the time. This was, like the early 2000s, and so I feel like board game culture has really evolved a lot. Like solo games was not a thing at the beginning, and like 2-player games, I feel like really, I think a lot of couples have sort of like made that happen, where it's like, it's me and my wife, we want to play a game, and it makes so much sense at this point. Like we would never do a 3 to I think it was 3 to 5 would be not a good idea. And so when we made the expansion, Ira had extremely good foresight to say 1 player is a great idea. And I was like, you're crazy. Who's going to play this game by themselves? But I didn't say that, but that was sort of my initial thought. And then as he talked about it, I was like, okay. And the response was very positive. And we also added 2-player in the expansion at the same time. So
that's
now
awesome.
Now it is 1 to 5 player with that expansion.
Tabletone is a phenomenal app. I use it every time I play tabletop role-playing games with my family. It greatly enhances the immersive experience. In fact, it's night and day using it and not using it. It can also be used for board games or any card game. It's great background music. It's made by a company based in Austria who have their own studio, who've developed their own software specifically to cater to your specific needs within the different game settings. So you can control intensity, there's different background noises. You can get it for free, and there's also a trial that you can run for 2 weeks that will give you full access to their entire catalog of sounds and audio. Definitely check it out. Link is in the description. Visit tabletone.app for more details.
And the game came out in 2014, and then Ira, you came on the scene shortly after that to work on Xayah. I always call it Xayah in my head.
That's totally fine.
But so what inspired you to say I can make something here and to contact Cody and everything?
Thanks for asking. Yeah, my background was in digital game development. So before I was a professor, I worked at EA and Activision for almost a decade. And my passion was really board games. Like in my leisure time, I always played board games. And so obviously getting to work in the digital games business is very good too. But like my heart was board games. And so I backed the original Xayah Kickstarter, first printing. I have the Envoy missions, and when I heard that Cody was going to do this expansion, I had like proofread first printing of Xayah rulebook and sent him like, here's some edits, whatever you might want to consider. And I had like written up like fan like house rules for the way I played Xayah. And I was like, they're all the reasons why these are like really good rules. But I was just like a fan, like a hobby board game designer for fun. And so when I heard that he was doing the expansion, I was like, Cody, I don't know if you'd remember me, but like, I really like, I'd love to work with you. Pretty please. You don't have to pay me anything. I just want to like, please let me work with you. And I don't know exactly why he accepted, but he accepted. And then I got to Oh, I remember. It's because I had done a little bit of also fan work um, on Agricola, which was a
Okay.
board game
That's
that I
right.
loved. And I was like, look, I have like,
Mhm.
I'm not a crazy person. Look, I've done some like a little bit of board game stuff
And
before.
I love Agricola.
Yeah, me
And
too.
so,
Actually, that's one of my favorite work. Originally, it was like my wife and I would play a lot 2-player, and it was very
Yeah.
cutthroat, very cutthroat. Who
yeah.
gets the Married with Children spot or whatever, you know? Who gets it
Yeah, so
first?
I guess my experience was work on these fan projects, do the house rules, like do the volunteer editing or play testing, and then it turned out that in this case it was a way to get my foot in the door with Cody, and I feel very fortunate and lucky that he was willing to talk to me, and it seems to have worked out to mutual benefit. So
Yeah.
yeah, basically from there we worked on Embers together, 2016, and then there was a lot going on in his life, and we wanted to do a reprint for Zaya because we were out of stock. But then I was like, we need something for the returning backers. And so then I got to work on Missions and Powers while Cody was busy, I think, really diving into Arydia and remodeling his house and having children. Like there were a lot of things
There
going
was so
on.
many projects going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you went through a lot, Cody. One of the things that you were actually public about was the cancer journey that one of your children was going through,
Yeah.
and which that's kind of when I'm like, all right, this is a company that I'm going to follow. And
Mm.
one of the things that I always try to say is there's a concept that I have dubbed the noble sacrifice, where as a board game designer, you a publisher, really, you're the face of your company. You kind of have to pull the veil back a little bit to let people see who you are, and
Mm.
a little bit about your family. You know, your privacy is kind of what you're giving up, you're sacrificing.
Sure.
And that you shared what was going on made me connect with you and your company in a way that kind of took away the corporate veil. It's quite easy to say our company makes amazing products at the best prices, we give the best services, and it's like you're just some corporation that's going to take my money and not care about me and whatever. But then when
Yeah.
you humanize, even though it may be a corporation that needs to make money and all that, it's like this person has normal life. They're just like me. They, that kind of thing. And it really made a huge difference. Did you mind sharing a little bit about that? Like how that
Yeah.
impacted the development of Arydia?
I feel like it is definitely a balance as far as like how much to share and how much to not share, because it's not just me, but my wife and
Mm-hmm.
kids, and now Ira and his family, and just like wanting to walk that in a way that is genuine, but also respectful of, like, not exploitative of anybody. And so for me, like, anytime I'm sharing something about family, I run it by my wife. I'm like, I run it by my kids if there's anything about them, and really did not want to share any of that journey, but it was going to be so impactful to everybody who had believed in Arydia and had given us money. And so I felt very responsible. Like, my thinking is, if you give me money and you're like, I want a thing, then I am responsible to you to like do my best with it, to be
Mm-hmm.
a good steward of that, and to show you, here's where the money's going. We're making the thing that we promised we would make.
Mm-hmm.
If there's delays, here's why there's a delay. We're not, we're
Yeah.
trying to be as conscientious of your time and your investment in us, basically, that we can. And so really we're just trying to do what we would want someone else to do in the same place. I feel like Ira and I are very aligned on that, and that's just something that makes me so happy to be in the board game community, because it's I don't know if it's because it's small enough, or it's because just the community has cultivated this sort of atmosphere, but I feel like it's very cooperative in that way of like, everybody wants everybody to succeed. Like,
Yeah.
please make cool games for me to play, and I will try and make cool games for you to play. And it's just like that makes me very hopeful for, and so that's one of the reasons why I'm so excited to be in this space and working here. Just like it's a co-op, like life. I think the world could be more cooperative, and if we can,
there's
very
little that's more intimate, other than I would argue sharing a meal. There's nothing more intimate that you can do with others than play a game together, whether it's some cutthroat, game, or it's a cooperative game, or whatever it is. You're kind of, the game is the facilitator to the relationships that are building across the table. I make I'll say like a very on the nose Christian game, and there are half my fans are, we'll just say half my fans are Christians and half my fans are non-Christians of various kinds. I've got Satanists and Wiccans and you name it, everything in between. And I remember, at conventions, people will regularly kind of start in a way, like with a taunt of like, there's no God, buddy. It's like, whatever, man, you want to slay demons or what? And they're like, wait, that's a weird response, and they walk in, and then before long, we're slaying demons by the righteous power of God together, and they're casting down darkness with pray actions and all whatever. And it's like, you don't need to be like me in order to connect with me, and vice versa. And
agree.
All of a sudden, like all these walls come down, and we realize we're like 99% the same. And I think that especially in today's day and age, where politics and religion tend to be two things that divide people. As soon as I know that you are this or you voted that way, it's like there are all of these assumptions that I must make about you, and I know who you are, but in actuality, I really don't. And we get to know one another truly through just sitting across from each other and sharing a meal or a game, right?
And I also think even if there are some differences, like I don't expect everybody to be exactly the same or have the same views, but I also think like the games bring us together and give us this shared overlap that we can like really enjoy together.
Yeah. It's something you can hold on to, right?
And I feel like especially our generation has really seen the rise of digital personal devices, phones, and just my experience with those is they tend to pull apart from the people around us. Like, it's very easy to be in the same room, but not in the same, dimension as, I'm shopping for new board games and, it's like, and so one of the things I really enjoy about board games is the aspect of like fostering community. I know it's like one of the best ways for me to spend quality time with my kids is just like, hey, let's play anything, get a deck of cards and teach them how to play, spades or whatever. Like just sitting across from somebody, we're 100% present. And so for me, designing games, my favorite feedback from people is like, oh, I like had so much fun playing this with my spouse or my kid, or like that is what we want. I know there's also like a big aspect of solo, and I don't want to take that away because I think having mental space, I think the world can be sometimes depressing and there can be, bad things going on. And so like having that place where you can reset and feel safe and like, I'm just going to have fun. And I can kind of forget about the cares of the world. Like that is also very valid and just like makes me so happy to hear like those two aspects of community being fostered. I like love board games for that.
Yeah, there's a concept I talk about a lot called tribal marketing, where people tend to organize themselves into tribes of like-minded individuals, rather not like-minded entirely, but like you said, Ira, we have this common ground. And so if, for example, you've got your community of Far Off Games fans, whatever space they meet, whether it's they talk politics or religion or whatever, people will, an issue that people would typically divide over, many will self-edit and say, hey, that's not why we're here. We're here to talk about what we together love and appreciate. And it's a way to kind of right the ship all of a sudden, where people that would normally just divide, they have a reason to kind of stick together and say, hey, sorry for that, or, that kind of thing. And I think that it creates, I would just call a safe space, not like a closet at a college or whatever. I'm talking about like a place that you can actually feel like you can just be yourself around others and not feel judgment or whatever. Right. So I don't know, Ira, if you have safe spaces at MIT or not, but I'm just talking about, the concept of, regardless of how crazy the world externally is, right here, I have friends that care about me, that value me, and will listen to me when it's my turn, But yeah, so I want to get into Arydia. In fact, I have a million questions, but you kind of answered, what made you do this, but was there a moment where you finally realized that this was going to be a way bigger project than you thought? What was that like?
Yeah.
What was the moment?
So 2015, I spent the whole year working on, I had 3 games that I was sort of rotating with, trying to figure out which one to take to market. And Arydia started out as basically fantasy Xayah. I was like, I'll just reskin Xayah as a fantasy game. And then I had all these other ideas, and I really wanted to do a campaign. And it ended up being, there was a inflection point sort of halfway through the year where I was talking to my wife, and I was like, I don't know. I've got 2 games here. One is Fantasy Xayah, and the other one is like this new thing. I'm more excited about the new thing, but I have no idea how I'm going to finish it because it seems so big. And I remember talking to Abby about it a lot, and I was like, okay, I'm going to go for the bigger one. I think it might take a while. And yeah, it turns out, did not know how much work it was going to take. Yeah, a crazy amount of work. And I mean, one of the things looking back now, it's like Ira and I talk about, like, man, how much work it was. And I can often feel down on myself of like, man, I'm just a slow worker. I wish I figured things out quicker. But one of the things that was encouraging was listening to Jamie Stegmaier talk about his development with Vantage. He's like, an open world game takes a really long time to make. Turns out you can't just crank them out. Like, it's not a 1-year project, 2-year project. Like, you are going to have to invest a lot to make it work.
So it was kind of that watershed moment of, there's a one path and another, and the other is more interesting. And Jamie Stegmaier said, in an article he wrote a really long time ago on kickstarterlessons.com. If you listen to this and you don't know it, but it was like, what game should you make, a big one or a small one? And his answer was, make the one you're most passionate about, because there are going to be a lot of times where you feel down in the dumps and whatnot. And what carries you through is the passion for the project you're working on. That's what kind of the feedback I took.
Great advice. Yeah.
So. Hey, crowdfunding nerds, it's Andrew Lowen, and I wanted to introduce you guys to the Crowdfunding Nerds Academy. If you don't know, we have a do-it-yourself course system that will teach you how to build, excite, and prepare a crowd to fund you on your launch day, and that is our goal. I have used these systems to help raise over $30 million for tabletop campaigns, over 200 tabletop crowdfunding campaigns since 2019. I've generated over $100 million through e-commerce sales using these processes. These courses teach you how to replicate our results. They're made for the small creator. Over 150 of those people were first-time creators. These courses contain hundreds of hours of podcast discussions and tons of details that are almost impossible to find on the internet. And they have been distilled into concentrated courses that you can absorb quickly. They are designed to generate results. We hold nothing back. Visit crowdfundingnerds.com/academy to learn more, or just Google search Crowdfunding Nerds Academy. Back to the show. So I've never played Xayah, but I figured, one of the things I figured, just kind of looking at Arydia as a game designer myself, I think, where were the core systems? They had to kind of be established. Like, you have a system where in combat, you deal with these hits where, if you have like a bow and arrow, you can hit from the top down depending on how well you roll, or sometimes you can do a targeted hit, and a grid system for where the enemy's health is and whatnot. Was that a Xayah system, or what systems kind of transferred from Xayah, and what systems were like brand new that you had to iterate on in Arydia?
Yeah, man. I feel like not a lot of systems transferred. If you've played them, I feel like they're very different, but I feel like maybe some philosophies transferred over. So, I mean, Ira can speak to this. We spent so much time on the combat system.
Yeah, share about that,
Yeah.
Ira. I'd love to hear more about that combat system. How did you develop that system?
I think that, like most good game design, it's a very iterative process. You don't get it right on the first try. And, I think there were many versions that we made that got completely thrown out. But I think each time you attempt it, you play test it, you either with yourself or with just internally, or sometimes maybe even with external people, like Alex and Luke. I remember I was actually still teaching at Hampshire College at the time. This is like a decade ago now. And like I was teaching a game design class, and they were in my class, and I play tested in class because I was doing a lesson on like how do you play test. So it's like, okay, I'm going to show a game that I'm working on right now, and we're going to play test. And it was like mediocre. Like it wasn't very good yet because this is like a long time ago. But I think educationally it was effective because I got to demonstrate sort of playtesting techniques. But they remember playing a very early version of that. But I think as you playtest, you realize, okay, this is the heart of it. This is the thing that I really care about. That's really resonating. And I think one of the things you were talking about, similarities between Xayah and Arydia, I think one of the things that resonated with us was the sort of Tetris-y shape-based experience, and the tactility of putting things on other things. Like in Arydia, you in Xayah, like you're putting little markers on your engine when you activate it. Like you could have a world where you're just like, I use my engine. But in Xayah, you like put your marker on your engine, and you use your engine, and it feels good. And it's like a board game thing.
Yep.
And that happens in combat too. When you do the damage, you like put the damage on the thing in the shapes, and it feels good. And you're like, I did that thing. And there's some tactility to it. And I think that's also why when you like use your weapon in Arydia, you take your action marker and you put it on your weapon, and you say, I'm using my sword. And I would shortcut that all the time. And Cody's like, what was your action, Ira? And I was like, I just use my sword. Like, I don't see the action marker on there. So those are some thoughts.
Yeah. And I think, so like in Xayah, when you take damage, it's just a number of damage, but you place it into a grid, and where you place it really matters. And so we sort of extrapolated some of that into Arydia, where what if when we're dealing damage, it matters where we're picking it? And then what if different weapons did different patterns? And that was, for us, we were like, this is so cool. This is going to be great. Because you're still doing math. It's still just like there's hit points, but instead of a number that counts up or down, now you've got this like puzzle, and you can be efficient at it. Ira is so good at placing damage patterns, and I am so bad at it. So when we would play, I would be like, okay, I just attack him right here. And I was like, is that the best spot? What if you would have did it right here? And I'm not calling it out to make fun of it. I'm saying like, you can actually be really good at the game, which is cool. There's like levels of complexity that sometimes escape me, but greater minds can see and plan ahead. If you're into that, like you can get really good at the game, which I think is the mark of like a fun system. I know that I feel good about systems when I design them, and then I'm like, I actually don't know what the best thing to do is. That's to me when I feel like, okay, this is probably while playing it, I'm like, I don't know what the best course of action is. Like, I think this is good, but if I could like read into the future, there's probably actually like some really good stuff. And that's, as a designer, I feel like this is a system that feels good. when it's too complex to understand.
But also that the newer player can just do it. Like, I think sometimes complex systems, you're like, oh, I'm overwhelmed by the number of choices. But in this, you're just like, I roll my die, do my damage. Like, maybe you're not thinking about it deeply, and that's fine. You can still go and play.
Mm-hmm.
Which is
and
nice.
It's a very
but like I'm like
simplicity, right?
I'm like counting cards in the threat deck and like anticipating, well, odds are this thing
There's
is
an all foes card. There are 3 all foes cards and only 7 cards left. Yeah. That's cool. I find that the depth in the combat system, it's why I have backstab, and I'll probably will for the whole game.
Yes.
Because it's such a clutch ability,
So good.
But I think that this type of system really, really lends itself well. First of all, it's innovative. I've never seen something like it. In fact, the closest that I guess I could come would be Sleeping Gods has a system somewhat similar where it's a grid, and like if you cover certain spaces on an enemy, they lose a damaging ability now or other things like that. So but your system,
I think FTL, the video game, has some sort of, not exactly, but like where damage happens is so I would not say it's innovative in the sense of like we came up with like out of thin air. I feel like the way we put it together is unique, but
and so I kind of want to move into each system in the game is very compelling and it never feels repetitive. That's one of the things that I'm very impressed with about Arydia is that if I get into combat, I'm not in combat all the time. But when I get into combat, it's like, all right, now my abilities are going to matter and all sorts of other things. My wife plays Path of Marksman, so she's got pathfinding and, when we want to explore and whatnot. But like the abilities, it's not so much about like how good are you at the game. It's like, oh, what's over here? What's under this rock? What's this point of interest? And that kind of thing. So like I've kind of, you've got combat, story, advancement, and exploration, and these are like kind of core systems that I see in Arydia. And the exploration is to me like the yin to the yang of combat. And when you're exploring, one of the things that we love is that we get to flip stuff all the time and reveal new things all the time. And my title is currently not useless because it's the best title. I might swear I might keep that the whole game. It's so good. But
that's a good one.
Yeah. So the new things that you get to uncover is so compelling. It's like I get a treat or something. Like it's like candy, But the exploration, when you get into a location, you move across a hex grid that is like the world map, and you flip over a little hex that turns into like, it says like medium-11. And it's like, okay, I have 4 large decks of, they're not cards. They're kind of, they're map tiles that you pull out. There's a small, medium, large, and long. And they have about 100 or more tiles in each like case or whatever. And I'm supposed to find the medium-11, which is the 11th tile down. And I pull that thing out, put it in front of me, and I'm still adventuring. It's one of the things I found was quite interesting. It's like, okay, go from this world map now to this location where it's like, all right, we're at like on an island, something we did recently. We're on an island, we're exploring around, don't know what I'm going to find, but we can go left or we can go, down or whatever. We can go west or south. And you see like other map tiles connect, and it's like, okay, the map tile to the west, it kind of, you get a preview. It's one of the things I thought was super cool is when you're zooming in, like the if it was a video game, you would like go to the location, press the the town or whatever, and then it zooms in to your character running around, right? But when that's happening, you get this on the back of medium-11, you get a simple story that kind of informs you as to what you might find if you go west or if you go south. That to me is cool, but the fact that it's replicated over 400 times on hundreds of map tiles that are all interconnected in some way. Like you have kind of groups of tiles that have been interwoven with one another is mind-blowing. It's completely mind-blowing.
Yeah. It's a lot of work. Turns out it's a lot of work to do those. I was honestly inspired back in the day. I played a lot of video games, and before there was World of Warcraft, I would play MUDs, which are online text versions of World of Warcraft, basically. So, and one of my favorite things was the room descriptions. Just reading, I loved reading books. And so this is like an interactive book. You can move around in a Lord of the Rings style world and like interact with stuff. And like a big part of that, like the tiles and the descriptions comes directly from playing MUDs, where it's like, I'm going to go north or I'm going to go west. And like, there's a little description, and then I move west and I get another description. I'm like, oh, this, like, that drew me so much in those video games back then. And so I thought this would be such a fun way to do a board game. We can have that, and in a board game, we can flip it over and have beautiful artwork that matches. And we can have like secrets that are hidden in there, and just that sort of design made me very happy, and I find very compelling. I'm like, I want someone to make a game like this. So I don't know, because right now I know everything, but like a game where I didn't know everything, it would be so compelling for me. And so that was a lot of our design philosophy is, can we make a game that we would be so excited to play? And honestly, like one of the greatest gaming experiences of my life was Ira flew out here 2 years in a row. He flew out in like the spring, and we played through as much of the game as we could. I think we beat the game both times. I think we didn't see everything, but oh my gosh, we had so much fun, and we knew everything that was coming, but we just delightful to play with Ira. So
that's awesome.
I have two thoughts to add. One is, I feel like you made a very intentional design choice, Cody, related to the storytelling aspects of the game, that you didn't want a big like storybook. And obviously there are some excellent games with storybooks. But for Arydia, you had a clear vision, which was, as the players play, they're going to get little snippets of the story, bite size, a lot of little bite size. And we added it up at one point. It was like 2 books of Harry Potter, like the first 2 books of Harry Potter. It's like, it's a lot of words in Arydia, but you're not reading it out of storybooks. It's very much in context. And to the point of like in context, and you mentioned the art, I want to share a story, which is that there was an early location that players experienced in the game, and Cody wrote like all of the text or the vast majority of the text on the maps. And we were doing a check near the end of development where we were going to read the text on the back of every map, and then we were going to flip it over and see, like, does it match? Like, does the art match and there was a place where there were birds in the, like, there were supposed to be birds in the water, and we had already paid the artist. Like, the art was done. We couldn't change the art. And I was like, but Cody, like, please, it says there were birds in the water. How can we not show the players birds? And he was like, okay. Like, I gave that feedback like 3 times, and he was like, Ira, we can't change the art. I was like, Cody, it still says birds in the water. You either need to change the text or you need to add birds in that water. And I think we eventually got birds in the water.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, that was the level of detail and polish, and that's why it took a long time to make. There wasn't any shortcut. There was just like, we're going to do this with a lot of attention to detail over literally thousands like of maps and cards. And that's how we did it. Was it efficient? I don't know, but you end up with something like we ended up with if you have the time and ability to do it.
Yeah. The most recent experience that I had with Arydia was just a few days ago, and my wife and I were playing, and we found the fairy from Legend of Zelda. You guys know what I'm talking about? And it was like, there's a cave that, we explored and that kind of thing. I love all of I can just tell, like, your experiences, Cody, are a lot like mine growing up. Like, I grew up on all the Japanese RPGs and of course World of Warcraft and everything too. But it's fun, and Ira, you as well, just having a lot of shared experiences that have been infused into the game, I can tell. And I think that's a really big point about when you're making a big game. I don't think you can just make one without being seasoned in life. A lot of the time, like I feel even with Deliverance, I feel like, one of the big kind of defining experiences was Final Fantasy Tactics for the combat system of Deliverance, the grid-based squares instead of hexes for that reason. And, it was something that my brain understood. It's like I know what range 2 versus range 4 means on a square grid, right? And that's just because my brain understands. But there are others that will grow up on hex grids or whatever that will create systems. It's just because my brain understood that. So that's what I knew. I could make a really great game using a square grid, which was kind of at this point, I feel like a square grid is like dated now. If you're not using hexes, you're like old school. And so I actually think squares are kind of innovative now. You've got Star Wars Rebellion, I think. You've got a couple of other games that use squares. Arydia, of course, uses squares, and
D&D uses squares. So I think a lot of people who are familiar with that genre.
That's true.
We actually talked about hexes and we talked about diagonals with the grid as well. And I think
there are versions of the maps with hexes at one point, probably in 2017.
Yeah, and we were dealing with sort of actually physical table space because Arydia actually takes up quite a lot of table space at times. And so we were like, well, what is the densest we can pack the maps for physical like dimensions, centimeters or inches on the table? And the answer is squares. Squares with no diagonal movement. Squares with no diagonal movement is the most dense use of space you can have to be able to make interesting combat puzzles and things like that. So we were also,
with miniatures at a scale that we wanted.
With miniatures, exactly.
Yeah. I think that's really, really smart. And the system that you used on the battlefield, I want to also mention that is another piece of the combat puzzle that I found really compelling, where some space, so you have a movement of 3, or you can spend some stamina to move 5, but then there are single lines, there are double lines that require movement of 2 in order to just pass that and that kind of thing. And I thought that was a nice touch. It's like some block vision or some block adjacency and whatnot. And it's really easy to read is really important. I think that's one thing that during my map tile development for games, I found that people tend not to see walls very easily. It's like it's a big wall right there, but their brain is like figuring this combat puzzle out, and they already have a lot to kind of digest. They just move right through a wall. It's like what is the indicator that is not bueno? Yeah, it's a big black line or a big white line, right? For Arydia.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time developing those actually, because our goal was, I think the easiest is to do a red line is like, that is very visual, but I did not want red lines. And so we spent a long time developing, like, how can we do all of the things that we want in black and white? And so doing them visually as like dashed lines or solid lines, we spent probably too much time developing but I feel like, to get something that is readable on the table can oftentimes take more time than you think. Like, this will just be easy. Especially if you come from playing video games where the video game self-enforces the rules. Having good graphic design that reinforces rules in board games can take a lot to make it seamless in a way.
Well, share some anecdotes if you want.
Yeah, please do.
So 2 anecdotes on the map stuff. One was, I think that we very intentionally tried to match the art on the with the mechanics of what the players were experiencing. And it was very much a balancing act, because there were times where if I was working on the layout of a particular combat and I said, look, I need this tree to be 1 square over because otherwise it's going to throw off the whole combat. Like, we couldn't just like mark where the obscure terrain was without matching the art. The rule was always like, you have to actually match the art. And there were times where we're like, well, is that tree exactly in the right spot or not? It's like Cody went in and like adjusted. We had art from the maps done. And then at the last minute, Cody would have to like make shifts. Fortunately, I think we got layers, right, for the trees and stuff. It was not too hard.
So yeah, some of them the artist would give us. The artist gave us like trees on transparent backgrounds, so I could like do some last minute edits in Photoshop.
Right.
But,
and there were some times where it was like, sorry, Ira, I can't move that art. Like the art change will be too hard. And therefore we actually changed the combat design to make sure that like we had a design principle, like the art has to match the mechanics. That was a very important map design goal. And then the other thing that we realized only after we were in development for a while was what happens when you put maps against other maps. Because we were working with digital files and it was very obvious what was happening on the edge of the map because you could see it easily in the digital file. But when you physically print that map, there's a tolerance that the manufacturer gives you that like maybe we're going to slice off 1 millimeter or like a half a millimeter of the edge of your map. And if you do that and you have important information about is that a wall or is that a place you can pass through on the very edge of your map, that's going to screw everything up. And so we just redid all of the edges of maps where maps are touching other maps on the edge. And we were like, those are all like this rule can apply no matter what. There's no visual information that you need to know for the edge of a map. That was an interesting sort of the balance between design and physical products and edges of maps that are touching other maps.
You know, it's weird because so you guys both came from digital game development backgrounds, right? And
I wasn't developing games. I was just like crawling under desks and
hooking
up computers and printers and stuff.
Yeah. So my background, I guess, is more marketing, but I came from the video game world. And one of the things that really kind of amazed me, I had this epiphany one day when I was designing. I think I was playtesting one of my games when it was just terrible, and everyone was like sitting back, it looked like a rat died in their mouth, and their arms are crossed, and they're like looking at their watches and their phones or whatever, early iteration. And I realized what I'm doing is I'm programming people. That's what a game does. It's like you have the various components, and you have the rules that I have a team that I work with now for our games, and they're just like, well, let's just add a rule. I'm like, nope, we're not writing any more to clarify. We're going to take whatever that paragraph is and we're going to cut it in half, because I need whatever the person does. I just need the graphic design to tell them what to do. It's like if you have resources, I want bays for the resources. Like it looks like something goes there. If there's an action token that you're using, we have these hourglass circular action tokens. I need a place that looks like an action token has been imprinted on the character card. And so that way the rule book will say actions go here, this and that, but players already know, oh, this goes here, that goes there. I start with 2 of these, I think, and blah, blah, blah. And I think Arydia in the so I wanted to talk about the advancement. You have several character boards for each class, right? You've got your kind of the board that has your character, the skills that you use and other things like that, and your health and stamina and magic and whatnot. And then you've got another one that includes equipment and things. And then a third that's more of like an advancement, the actual like advancing skills down a line board. And I'm sure this all took a very long time to get right. But one thing I really appreciated was I have so I opened up the quick reference guide and went right through that and never opened the rule book. It's like, I got this, and then it's like, I remember the first time I opened the rule book was the Caro. You guys, there's this minor spoiler. There's a you should always run when a dragon is flying overhead and you're at the beginning of the game. Run. So anyway, that was super fun. We're like, we got this. What are these? yellow cubes. I don't know what the yellow cubes are. And so we ran. And the first time I opened up the rule book was to figure out how to run away in a battle. But I think Arydia does a really good job telling me where to place things and what to do. Obviously very purposeful, but can you speak to that a little bit? Like even the system for advancement, but the way that you track on the character board. Would love to hear your some thoughts on that.
We iterated on that so many times. I mean, in my storage, I've got tons of versions of the character boards. The very first thing I drew when I was designing Arydia was a character board. I was like, I want a cool character sheet. I had looked at D&D character sheets and I was so disappointed. just in like, it's a piece of paper and you sort of write some stuff. And I was like, what if we did something that board games are the best at, which is physical. Like I want to touch things and I want to like put things in slots, and like the toy aspect of that, just physical ASMR, just really good feels that board games can do that you can't get in a video game. And can we play to that strength? And so that was a huge part of the design of those character boards. And also we really wanted to be conscientious of people's time. So Arydia is designed for dads in the sense, and moms, but just like parents who like, we have jobs. We used to, be able to spend 4 hours prepping for a game night, but now like we just need to sit down and play. And so a lot of what we tried to do was, how can we have the game get out of the way so that all you're doing is you're sitting down and you're just experiencing the fun part of gaming, not the like, oh, what do I have to set here, and like setting stuff up. And so the character boards double as a save mechanic where you just put them into your tuck sheet and then you pull them back out and everything remembers, where it was. So your setup for your character should be very quick. But as far as like getting those right, to get everything that we needed, all the information, and then to make it as small as possible within the realm of what can we actually physically produce. There was so many emails back and forth with our manufacturer, Panda. David Lippman, thank you so much, David. He's our project manager there. I've sent him hundreds of emails where I'm like, can I just move this like 1 millimeter this way? And like, yes, I think we can. And so just to get those right took so much time, to get all 3 of those and then to have them like the same size total. It was a lot of Tetris. I would, my wife would be reading in bed and I would be like moving pieces of paper around of like, what if we put equipment here and this here? And those honestly changed all the way up until, I want to say, the month or 2 before printing. I like moved the coins and the markers or something at the last minute. But I don't know.
I have a thought to share. 2 thoughts maybe. One is we had a design principle when we were thinking about combat and any abilities, that we always wanted the players to be focused on the board and not to be looking at cards or separate from that. We wanted to provide cards as reference if they had FAQ questions, but we wanted all the information that you needed ideally to be visible in front of you on your player board. And I think we hit that pretty well in terms of the balance. We tried not to do too many combats where you had to be referencing a card. There are a few combats where you might start the combat and there'll be some special global rules that affect that combat. But in general, the idea is you're looking at your player board, you're seeing the foes, and then you're jumping in. I also remember, in terms of Cody's talking about the player board and trying to get them as small as possible, we have slots, and like putting things in the right slots. We have slots for experience and we have a little coin purse for money. And we calculated, based on the tokens that we're giving you, the double-sided like 1 or 3 experience, 5 or 10 experience, how high could you count in terms of experience if you only have 5 slots? Like there are 5 slots for or maybe 6. I can't remember. I think
there used to be 6, and we had to go down to 5, which kicked off your math obsession.
Right. And we were like, okay, well, if we give them this many 1s and this many 3s and this many 5s and 10s and this many 25s and 50s, they can count up to like 91 experience. That's going to be fine. I don't remember exactly what the number was, but we did.
And then you've got 4 players to think about. right? You're
Exactly.
we need
Yes,
enough
with
for
4 players. Exactly.
Yep.
Yep.
And we actually needed we originally were going to ship with only 1s and I think 5s.
It was
Uh-huh.
just 1s at first.
It was
Yeah.
just 1s.
It was
Okay.
just 1.
It was just 1s in the coin purse, which obviously, given the physical space on that player board, be very limited. And then we had 1s and 5s, and then we did a calculation where, like, if you like fill that up with 5s, that's still not enough money, because it's sometimes you're going to go higher than whatever that physical space was. I think it was
it was because that last minute change where I was like, we need to reduce the coin purse
Mm-hmm.
by another like 6 slots. And then Ira was like, okay. And he did the math and he was like, you can't actually hold, it was some weird number, like you can't hold 27, 28, or 29.
Right.
And so we were like, what if we did denominations of 10? And he was like, that would, I think he said, if we did denominations of 10, it would fix it. So that's where the gold bars.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, 20s,
That's-
20s. Yeah.
20s.
That's kind of the hidden stuff that you don't really learn about until you get into the weeds, and then your players tend not to understand the game to the depth that you do, so
You'll
they
never think of
can't
it.
experience that. I hope you guys share this with your player base. Man, it's
We are
a,
right now. This is it.
Yes.
Thank you
So-
for asking us, Andrew.
yeah. And I feel like the one thing I'd love to ask you about. So there's this phenomenon that I find in so Deliverance has a campaign that has 14 missions in it. So it's like a linear mission system where you can play in about an hour each mission. Skirmish and whatnot is a different mode where it's like a random battle setup, but each mission is linear. And then there are challenges to each mission, so you can go back and earn an extra experience point.
Oh, smart.
For a really difficult mission. Like mission 1 is the tutorial. It's like beat these demons within 5 rounds. If you get to the 5th round, you lose. And so it's like just move and attack, and you don't have to worry about anything else. But then the challenge is beat them in 1 round. So you obviously have to come back, like powered up and whatnot. But the scaling and the balancing of that experience needed to be like every game that people played needed to feel challenging and difficult, and they needed to be able, because I didn't want to do a fail forward thing. Like if you don't slay Legion, then you're not moving forward, like you've got to defeat Legion, right? Or whatever.
Yeah.
So the balance was really important in that campaign system. And for Arydia, I feel like the balancing is in an interesting place, because these types of games, I want to run around and earn XP and just dominate like a whole leg of the adventure. And then, run around and earn XP and then just dominate. That's like the whole Japanese RPG style. You level up, so you're 20 levels higher than you need to be. And then you just run through all the story. So for Arydia, I felt that the balance is quite appropriate and interesting. So it's a puzzle not just for damage efficiency, but it's also like, like for example, I my wife and I are playing characters that we don't use strength really, and we get to these skeletons that you have to stomp out with using strength. We're like, well, we have a lot of healing potions, so that's kind of where you can heal them, which I thought was a nice touch to defeat them. There's this kind of natural balancing act that you get right. I feel like we're level 6 right now, so it feels good. But
awesome.
what is the balance? Like some of the balancing shenanigans, was it like what feels good at the time, or is it like, from your head? Like in my games, I kind of figure out, okay, 2 damage is the average damage that a foe needs to do in order to feel threatening. And just kind of move the ball. If they deal 1, it's not enough. If they deal 3, it could be okay. It could be too much. And so if something deals 5 damage to you, it has to have a big drawback for the enemy or whatever. And so what were some of the kind of the rules that you guys had? It's like this level, this many spaces on the board or whatever,
Yeah. So initially I designed most of the combats. Like, here's what we're doing. Here's the story. Here's why we're here. You're fighting these guys. And then I think I probably set some initial numbers of just like, here's some hit points and here's some whatever. Ira is, in my opinion, the best developer in the world. He I mean, he spent so much time balancing the combat, and not just the combat, but the balancing everything, like the economy and everything, because so much ties together. Like if you had too much money, you could buy, better things, and then you'd be overpowered for stuff. And so he taking everything holistically into consideration. I mean, Ira, how many spreadsheets?
I appreciate the compliment. I also think credit absolutely to Alex and Luke, who were associate developers on the project, and also credit to all the playtesters. So we had well more than 1,000 playtests of combats. We had a giant spreadsheet that tracked basically every single combat that you could possibly have in the game, combined with every possible permutation of team sizes and permutations. So it was a gigantic spreadsheet, and we did not get every single permutation of every single combat, but we did get every single combat, obviously playtested many times, and every single permutation playtest across a variety of combats. So there was definitely a lot of data gathering that allowed us to very quickly see. It wasn't like super fine tuned. I never used it for like, I need to know the difference between 2.5 average damage and 2.6 average damage. Like that wasn't used there. It was much more about like, whoa, people are dying like and losing this combat and wasting turns, like 3 wasted turns. Like we don't want wasted turns. So that was like a good initial guidance. And then as we continued developing, our intuition got much better. We refined our intuition. So we actually spent the longest and iterated the most and were farthest off in our initial guesses on the Act 1 combats. And so those were really polished a lot. The later combats, we didn't have to iterate as many times because our initial guesses were right. I will say there is a little bit of a counterexample to that, which is there is some like really, really high level, very, very intentionally hard combats at the end where we are like most experienced players. They've been playing the campaign
Ultimate
for like
Weapon
80 hours. They've seen everything at this point. We're like, we're going to throw them a twist. And like, sometimes those twists were, I was like, well, that was too hard. like Alex and Luke can't beat it, or, it's really hard. So I think,
initially we balanced them.
Yes, for sure. I was talking about intuition in terms of, I think in general, the intuition got better and better. We needed fewer and fewer iterations for combats. And then there were these sort of exceptions at the end, wherever we were throwing a real twist into the combat that sometimes that would cause a lot of iterations. I remember some of the final combats took.
There's a couple combats I haven't played yet.
Really?
That I'm really excited to play.
Wow.
I can tell you off air what they are, but
okay.
I'm playing through the campaign with my kids right now. And so I'm really looking forward to those like end game. There's a couple end game ones that I haven't got to play. Intentionally, I was like, Alex and Luke and Sam and David, like they've played these so many times. They've got this. I don't need to play it. So I'm excited.
That's awesome. So I heard one time, I forget what the guy's name is off the top of my head, Jeff, that is the host of Survivor. I was told by a game designer that I respect quite a lot, Justin Gary, designer of Ascension, that the best game designer in the world is the guy that hosts Survivor, because he said that he could. He was talking with Elon Lee, Exploding Kittens guy, and they were talking about how Jeff, what he could do is design a game and then forget that he had just designed this and put himself into the shoes of a person watching. He's like, do they understand this? Is it easy to understand? Is it entertaining and whatnot? And he would design a game, decide, nope, that's way too hard. And he would throw it right out, or, say, yes, this is what we need to change. And it's a really good skill to have, I think, as a designer, when you can take yourself out of the seat of the designer and say, I actually don't remember anything about this. It's like, I don't know, what should we do?
So difficult. Yeah. Especially when you work on something so long. It's very valuable. Something that like at this point I do consciously, when it's like, okay, now is go into this mode at like, I'll be editing location, and then consciously I need to read this with fresh eyes as if I have never been here. Can take a bit to get into that mental space sometimes.
Yeah. Absolutely. So one of the things that I have a question about kind of as we come in for a landing here is related to the art for the maps. This is something that I think could have gone completely the wrong way because that probably cost a lot of money. Either that or you're the artist. And so your hundreds of maps, how far in development did you get before you commissioned an artist? And this kind of
Yeah.
goes into like advice for aspiring designers making big games.
Mm.
How can you help other people not screw up in this area and spend loads of money?
Yeah. So I mean, we were very blessed to have Philip Ock. He did all of the artwork. What we did is I
All of the
designed.
map artwork. All of the
He did
map
all the
artwork.
map artwork. Sorry. Yes, he did all the map artwork. There's a number of artists who've worked collaboratively on this project, but Philip Ock did the majority of the map artwork. What we did is I am somewhat proficient at Illustrator and Photoshop, and so I designed every map, full color trees, but not like beautiful. And so I did the entire game before I sent any of it to Philip. And I was like, this was one of the biggest stopping points is like math for this is going to be so expensive. And so I think we had Philip do two or I don't know, enough for the Kickstarter. And then we were like, a lot of this money is going to go to making all of the art.
Mm-hmm.
And that was some of my favorite updates, was showing like, here's the old version that I drew and here's the new version that Philip did. And it's like, oh, I'm so excited to explore this world. And so I think the obvious thing is get art as far along as you can before you pass it to an artist. But and I think having as clear a design direction as possible so that you're not requesting, things to move. I think those two things helped. And then we were also Philip was very gracious in that he was willing to like, here's a bunch of assets. If you need to, add a tree or you want to put a bed somewhere, he did like a bunch of little art assets on transparent background, so I could just slap them willy-nilly. And so there's some things where it was like, oh, we really need to have this wall extend here. And so I would like go in and do some edits like that. And Philip was good about like helping us be ready for those sorts of things. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Related to that, I guess the last question I have for you is, when you were going to launch the first Arydia, I had never heard of Far Off Games before. I mean, I knew of Zaya, but your company was new to me. Questions is, where are your communities that you're actively managing? Like, do you have an email list? Do you have like a Facebook group or whatever? And where can people connect with you? And then how did you get your community to rally behind a $750,000 funding goal? Because it felt like normally what people do is they have as low an artificially low goal as possible so that 300 backers make this happen. But you and Arydia is kind of an outlier project where you required thousands of backers before you even funded. And it didn't happen in the first 48 hours, which is, again, another very common, like, if you don't fund in 48 hours, you could be in trouble. It's like half your funding's going to come in. And I remember you guys funded after between like 1 and 2 weeks or something, right?
Man.
2.5 days.
2.5 days? Oh, that's, well.
But it was still more than a day.
It was a lot. Yeah.
So the question before you launched,
mm-hmm.
What were you thinking? The $750,000 goal, was it real, or like how, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah. One of the things that we value is transparency. And so did a lot of math on this, and like my goal with any of the project is that it needs to like pay for itself. So I'm not trying to use a bunch of Zaya funds to make this Arydia project, though. I mean, like, we're paying for people's salaries and like that kind of thing, but trying to have a project that like, this is what we need in order for this project to succeed. And that number was real. The cost to manufacture, I mean, you can talk to Panda, but like, they're like, this is the biggest, most complex thing we've ever manufactured. At the time, I mean, games are going crazy, but I think one of the things that can be fun about a funding platform, at least in our minds, was if there's something really cool and we can all like put money towards it and make this cool thing happen, that is a good feeling. And so I'm notoriously, like, you can ask my sister who runs all of our social media and stuff. I'm terrible at like community outreach and like those things. So a lot of it was just word of mouth of like, hey, we have joined your previous campaigns. I would say a huge amount of people were returning backers from our Zaya and Tavarua. Like our previous games, they were like, we love what you've done. We loved how like we tried to be consistent with our updates. If there were any delays or whatever, we post every month and like let people know where things are at. And so just being like a known quantity, I think helped a lot, that people could look back at our other campaigns and say they have delivered in the past. If it funds, they will deliver on this. Felt very sure to people. And I don't know. Ira, did you have any thoughts on that?
Oh, I think that's a great summary.
Awesome. So now, where can people connect with you? Where are your communities?
Yeah, I mean, we're running a second printing funding campaign right now for Arydia, and we're also offering Zaya and all the expansions there. So you can find us over on GameFound. And other than that, you can follow us. We're Far Off Games on Instagram and Facebook and all those places. So
that's fantastic. Do you guys have an email newsletter or anything like that?
Yeah, if you go to faroffgames.com, there's a little spot you can sign up for it at the bottom.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate so much you guys just being willing to come on and share a little bit about the love letter you made to the world in Arydia.
Thank you, Andrew.
I'm loving this game. I'm a big fanboy of yours, both of yours, and I hope for the sequel. What do you have cooking in the future?
Oh man,
more Arydia content?
I've got notebooks here packed with like sketches of maps and like cool places. We're not announcing anything at this point, but I mean,
yeah. But there's more coming down the pipe. I'm super excited. 7 to 10 years from now, we'll get another Arydia, right? Well, thank you guys so much, Cody Miller and Ira Fay. I really appreciate you guys. And for those listening, go back that game. It is truly one of a kind. It's so between Arydia and Isofarian Guard, my top two like gigantor epic games in a box. Arydia is an experience you won't forget. I honestly think there are a lot of lessons to learn in the way that you've laid out your campaign page and everything like that. Just speaking about what a product is rather than what, you're not trying to make it sound amazing. It just is amazing, And so
thank you.
Yeah.
For someone who comes from a marketing background, that means a lot. A lot of my goal is you decide. I don't want to talk down to you and tell you like, this is fun. I feel like you figure it out. Does this look fun to you? Great.
Yeah. I think excellent marketing is, let me show you what this is. And that's it. It's like,
seems good.
It's awesome. So, all right, well, we'll cut it off right here and see you next week. Hey, crowdfunding nerds, if you're looking for an awesome fulfillment partner for US shipping, you should really consider Bridge Distribution and Fulfillment. I personally use them. I've used them for multiple projects. They do such a great job. They also can fulfill Amazon orders and get you prepped for Amazon and their warehousing team. I have been so happy using Bridge Distribution. I'm really proud that they're sponsoring us. If you reach out, bridgedist.com, that's bridge, DIST.com,